Welcome back, agents, to another episode of Prime Tips. Hey, this time we're talking about problems and how to solve those problems. So we are talking about the Ingress Prime scanner, but we're looking at problems that you can't really fix in the Prime scanner, but you have the problems in the Prime scanner. So we're going to look at those and how you can fix them to give you an idea of how I ran across it. And this is kind of similar to problems that a lot of people will see. I was actually trying to purchase something from the store, and when I went through to purchase some CMU, I was a little short. When I popped it up, I noticed that it was indicating that my Google Play balance, and that is the Play balance, not the pay balance like I'll say later, my Google Play balance at that time was zero. Now, I knew there was money in Google Play. I do some surveys and things to generate a little bit of cash to keep up on my core subscription and purchase a few things here and there. But Prime Scanner in the store was not showing that money. And I had gone through a number of things in the scanner to take care of that, and it wasn't making those changes. So I did have to kind of search out for another way to take care of it, and I didn't find the exact thing. I did find a process dealing with the Google Play picking up the wrong balance, picking up the balance for a wrong account, one that wasn't tied into Ingress. But the process worked for me, and I would say the process is going to work for a lot of things. Maybe if you have a login issue or any data issues that you're going through the regular process and you're working in the actual scanner and you can't resolve it, this might be a good way to go to resolve that issue. But there are a couple of things that you need to be aware of that you probably need to look at ahead of time before you do this. So you could do the nuclear fact thing, just reinstall it, but this might be better. So one of the things is you probably want to look at your settings before you start. So one of the things that you'll see that becomes a bit of an issue whenever you clear the data or clear the cache is a change in your settings, because that information is saved in that saved data and possibly in the cache. So before I go through the process of showing you how to clear the data, just going to take a quick look at my settings so we can see what's changed. So notice we got portal contributions are all on, Venture Sync is on, Dynamics is on at half, email checks are on. Those are the ones that might come back to bite you. In my case, I was waiting for an email on the core subscription passcode. These were on, but had that not been on, I would have had a problem. I had a problem anyway. Your primer settings, push notifications, again, all of those are on. My agent stats set to private, dynamic compass and battery, saver mode is on. And you'll notice that sound and vibration are turned way down. The reason they were turned way down is because I like for you guys to have a little bit of the sound when I'm talking to you, but it has to be turned down enough so that you can hear me. And then you got open sources license, blocked agents, help center. So if you blocked an agent or something, you might have to keep that information in mind. Subscription info and just the sign out. So we'll come back and look at this after we clear out the data. And like I said, if it's something that has a list like blocked agents, you're going to need to open up and look and get the list of those blocked agents, because if the reset of the cache or the data files gets rid of that information, then all of a sudden those agents can talk to you. So take a look at the process. And again, keep in mind this process is on an Android phone. If you have an iOS device or maybe a tablet or something, it could be totally different. But this gives you an idea of what you're looking at. What makes this kind of solution difficult is that this solution, the thing you need to do to change, is not in Ingress. So it's not in the app itself. It has to do with the phone or the device that's running Ingress. So this could be different for different phones, of course. If you're using an iOS, you're going to see something quite different than what you're going to see here. I'm using an Android phone, and even different versions of Android you might see a little different, but we give you an idea of how to get there and what to do. On this particular phone, you're going into just your apps. You're going and you're finding settings, and then you're going to apps, and then you go down through the apps and you find Ingress. And when you get to Ingress and you turn on, this is what you will see. So we definitely don't want to do an uninstall, although that could be a solution if you have a real problem. But the first thing we will want to do is to force stop Ingress. And the reason we want to do that is that'll keep it from holding open any files that are in the cache or in the data. So you want to make sure that you first force stop it. So once it's stopped, and I can tell that on this particular phone because it's grayed out, I'm going to come down and I'm going to find storage. And you figure it would be memory, but it's not really memory because it's storing it in files. So I'll go into storage. And here's the two choices that you have. You can clear the cache or you can clear the data. So what I would suggest is first try clear cache. And you just hit the button and it clears the cache. Now cache is kind of temporary data. It holds it in memory. It may write a file here and there, but it's not something that holds on for a long time. And you notice that on this particular phone at this time, I've got now 0 in the cache, but I still have 86 megs in the data. So that's holding things like the preferences that I have about what settings I want to have open and all of that information. So when I clear that, I have to go back and set some of that stuff up.
And probably in most cases, if you have an issue that's dealing with like a login or the account that's tied into the Google Play or a credit card, that's probably in that data file. So clearing the cache probably will not get it. But like I said, it's a good thing to try first.
Again, that's going to be the solution for certain things like maybe not being able to log in, or in my case, not having the money in my Google Play show up, because that information is stored in those files and something in that is messed up. So I'm also going to clear data, and it says that all the data is going to be deleted permanently, files, settings, accounts, databases, everything. So I'm going to have to log back in and start not from scratch. I don't have to start Ingress from scratch. I have to kind of set up the app by scratch. So I'll go ahead and say okay. And now you see that I have 0 data, 0 cache, and this is where I would go back and start up Ingress. I'll be back in a minute.
And honestly, at that point, you probably have fixed the problem, but there's other things that you have to look to do. And again, I mentioned about uninstall. When you uninstall, if it does the uninstall correctly, it's going to take out that cache and that data file. But there's a possibility that if it doesn't quote unquote clean up after itself, when you do the uninstall, it may not delete the cache and the data file. It may leave it there. So if you try that nuclear option and you uninstall the software and then you come back and you still have the problem, need to look at this, these two things, what's in the cache and what's in those data files, and blow those away. It's kind of why I say, it might be better just to go the route of getting rid of these files.
Okay, so I've cleared my cache, I've deleted the data files, cleared the data, and I have restarted the Ingress Prime scanner. So it does not remember a number of things. And one of the first things that I notice is I'm getting this thing about Ingress events in January and March. I've seen this particular notice, but again, that's information that is held in the cache and in the data files. And since I wiped that out, it's going to show me that. So I'll say okay, and I'll go ahead and do its load. And it's not going to know a bunch of stuff. So the first thing it wants to know is, do I want to allow it to know my location? That's pretty important for Ingress. Yes, I will need to allow that. And now it's just like I've never run the program. It's like I've just installed it. So I'm going to go ahead and do a sign in, and I'll sign in with Google. And I can choose what account I want. And it will do the login. So again, it's like it's logged in the very first
position.
time.
Lock-on established. Welcome back. Hypercube activated. Downloading latest Intel package.
So I still have all my stuff. I still have stuff in my inventory that I had before. So it didn't really wipe out the account. It just wiped out what this particular device knows about that.
And in my case, earlier, I said that, I had a problem with Google Pay not showing that account. I was able to, right after this, go in to the store, and then whenever I went in to buy something, let's say I just want to look at the Fracker Pack because I know I don't have enough money for that. If I were to go ahead and say acquire, it would take me through the process to do the acquisition, and then I would see my Google Pay money show up. I don't want to do that because there's a little bit of information about credit cards there that might not be a good idea to throw out there. So I'm going to assume that you have solved the problem. Here's the thing. You might have created more problems for yourself whenever you do that. So you do need to go back in and look at the settings. Okay, so it does have me logged in, but you notice that a lot of the settings that I talked about earlier, if we compare them, there's a number of them that are not clicked. So yes, I would like to enable portal scanning. I would like to enable mesh, and mesh improves portal scanning, showing agents what information has been and hasn't been scanned. Capturing mesh is used to generate 3D mapping of the portal network. And I will go ahead and say next. Do you want to download the LightShift AR and enable meshing? I will go ahead and do it, and it says now I'm enabled to do that. Again, if I've done that before, I have to do it again because that's part of that data that's there. Now, in my particular case, I'm probably not going to be able to mesh scan because this particular phone doesn't have the graphics to do it, but we'll talk about that another time. Adventure Sync, again, Adventure Sync, it really, really increases the accuracy of your movement. So in my case, I definitely want to turn it on. Otherwise, I'm going to be losing like 75% of the movement that I have not going towards my kinetic cap. Lighting dynamics stayed on, email stuff stayed on in this case, and all my push notifications stayed on. So if you notice those, also notice that it's probably hard to hear me right now because the sound is on full. So I'll back them down so that you guys can hear what's going on. And maybe now you can hear me. So go back through it real quickly. You notice that if you looked at the things that I went through, these are the things that turned off and I had to turn back on. So I probably should have went to sound and vibration first. But so I go through the information. It still remembers my subscription. I could still sign out. I could still delete, but I don't want to delete. And I'll say, okay. So that's it. I've cleared the data, cleared the cache, solved my problem. But then we had to go back in and check other things. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, and like I said, you would probably need to go in and look at a couple other things like blocked agents and anything else that you may have a list of things that you need to put back in. So that'll take care of a number of problems that you can't take care of just in the scanner itself. Now, if it's something beyond that, then you might be having to take the next step, which is contacting help at Niantic and saying, hey, I can't log in. What's wrong with my account? Hopefully it hasn't been banhammered or there's something messed up there. But might be a good step to do before you call them and get into it. So I'm hoping that you have everything squared away and everything's running fine. And maybe I'll see you in the field sometime soon, agents. So long.